So social media is really about protecting yourself, right? You love to put out data, but data can be just as negative as it can be positive. So we're going to talk about the not so pretty side of social media. For me, the best way to defend yourself, though, is to be offensive. Peyton Manning, best quarterback in football, in my mind. But in social media, the best way to create a community is to make your fans believe that they're just as important as the CEO of your business. When you're creating content, you want them to interact with everyone in the C-suite, everyone on the VPs, everyone from the PR assistant to the intern. When your fans are engaging, then they're going to take your back and defend whatever issues may occur. Because what creates bad PR is when people don't know who you are. The Justine Sacco instance, for example, nobody knew who she was until that negative situation occurred. People knew who she was. They would come to her back, maybe be like, we know it's a joke, she misspoke, maybe she would have kept her job. But she didn't build that fan base of supporters to start. For me, music festivals are my outlet. I don't go out, I go to music festivals because fans create energy. And there's definitely a real energy when you're in a room of people that love what they're doing. And social media is just a digital version of that room. So when you're on your Facebook, on your Twitter, on your LinkedIn, Pinterest, Snapchat, whatever it is, whatever your business finds as the best ability to communicate with their fans, remember that your fans are the reason that you have a business. So if you don't create your fans to have an above average experience, they're not going to really defend you if you do something silly. For example, a very simple tactic that I love to use with a lot of clients is table tents in restaurants. Throw a table tent out, 10% off your meal if you tweet, Snapchat, Instagram a photo of your meal, show your server. 10% to most hospitality businesses is negligible. What that creates is an above average experience. All we want to do is let the fan believe that they did something that they were going to do anyway, and they got rewarded for it. Rewarding people for social media makes them, as I like to say, a promoter. Because when you have promoters, detractors are a lot less, fewer and far between. Something that Apple does is they have a slogan called "Simplicity isn't simple." And I think this resonates really well in social media because there's a lot of times that you'll see something very simple, very obvious, easy to understand, digestible, but it takes a lot of hours work and understanding of the dynamics of the business and the fan base to make sure that those strategies work the way you want them to. An example that I love is during the blackout of the Super Bowl last year, Oreos was able to, within a minute of the blackout, tweet a picture of an Oreo half in black, half in light, saying you can still dunk in the dark. It got over 15 million retweets within 20 minutes. Stuff like that gives you leverage because social media, combating negative social media, is just about leveraging the positive. Companies like WestJet, like Southwest Airlines, when you do these positive actions via social media, it allows you to then have a mulligan, be able to do something that may not be so great because you have data that proves that all in all, you're trying to be positive, you're trying to do the right thing. But if that data is not out there, then there's nothing to leverage, nothing to prove that what you're doing is real. So a giveaway. We were just talking about with the table tents. When you give something away to a fan, it makes them love your brand. It's very simple. T-shirts at basketball games, cup cozies at football games, whatever it may be. When you give something away, it allows the fan to interact with that specific brand. But now in 2014, we need to mesh it with social media. So what if it's on the cup cozy, on the T-shirt, it says, tweet a picture of you in the shirt for maybe tickets to the next game. Or on the cup cozy, tweet a picture of you with a Bud Light to get access to a special video of the latest Bud Light commercial. Whatever it is to create that cross-section between the digital and the traditional will allow your fans to interact on these social platforms so that then they can become part of the brand. Because the whole idea of combating negative social media is ensuring that people who enjoy your brand are not just fans, but they're part of it. They're part of a movement. So So we're talking about fans, we're talking about how businesses need to highlight them. The importance of understanding that your fan is everything to your business is the single greatest thing that I talk about with my clients. To me, in digital hospitality specifically, businesses kind of overlook the fact that their fan is the reason that they're in business, or their customer. Guy coming in to order chicken parmesan on a Tuesday night. Guy coming in for a late night beer after a long day work. All of these things are the reason that these businesses are in place. But regardless of what your business is, whether it's B2B, B2C, anything, at the end of the day, everyone's a customer. Everyone's a fan. Everyone has something to do with growing the brand, because all businesses, corporate, small, startup, are made up of people. And people are what are on social media. Even a brand like Coca-Cola, there's someone actually tweeting that. So I'm very much of the mind thought that even if you're talking as a brand, it should have a very personal undertone. Because when you talk as a corporation, people get aggressive. When you talk as someone personable, it's much more of a conversation. But what do we do when the Justine Sackos happen? So what do you do when someone tweets something so outlandish that you have to take steps, you have to take things to ensure the safety of the brand? Because all of this is fun and great, but if your brand dies, then there goes everything. I think the idea of having people sign waivers understanding social media is a great first step. I think that every company needs to implement some sort of compliance training for social media. I believe 80 to 90% of employees in corporate America don't really grasp how social media could be detrimental to their career, to their brand, or to even their personal life. Because Justine Sacco's dad even was interviewed and had to go out and talk to the public. I mean, he shouldn't deserve to be put into these situations, but it happens because social media lasts forever. You can't delete it, and when you delete it, people take screenshots, people find a way to get these things out, and then when you delete it and someone has a screenshot of it, they go even more viral. But as I said before, sometimes you need a mulligan. Sometimes the action is not so bad that you need to terminate that. The action is a minor issue. For instance, the director of communications for President Obama, during I believe it was the 7th day of the lockout last year, was having a Twitter battle with someone about the debt, and goes, there's a much bigger issue at hand than the debt ceiling, but had a typo. Instead of a B, put an N, and tweeted that everywhere. Within 2 minutes, he was able to retract the tweet, saying that it was a typo and grossly apologized for the situation. Things like that happen. Their phones, your computer, typos. The importance is attacking it front and center, making sure that you take charge of it and admit to your faults. I mean, a great example on a linear playing field is Andy Pettit and Roger Clemens. Both of them did performance-enhancing drugs. Both of them were caught. One came out to the public and publicly apologized. One of them didn't. I think we all know what happened. Andy Pettit went on to play another 5 seasons, loved by all Yankees. Roger Clemens kind of disappeared and is nowhere to be talked in baseball now. It's really important whenever something happens that's clearly a mistake that you don't ignore it, that you come at it front and center. With that said, though, I have a policy for any of my employees, team members, aspiring leaders. I don't like the word intern. I think anyone that's working as a college student is aspiring to be great, so we should call them aspiring leaders. But you should always measure twice and cut once. Because, as we said, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, these are forevers. It's not like if you're having a conversation with someone and you misspoke and you can quickly retract it. When you put something on the internet, everyone can see it. And Justine Sacco, I think, had 146 followers before that fiasco. So it's very possible that even if you're not followed, even if you don't have a lot of people in your network, if you do something outrageous, it's going to get people's attention. Always measure twice. Always check what you're going to write before you send it. Reread it, double check it. If you work for a big corporation, you're talking as Coca-Cola or you're talking as McDonald's, you should probably have better security. I didn't know that story about with the guy shooting up in that picture. That was incredible. Like, how does that happen, right? Whose idea was it to not have a password that was slightly better for a multi-billion-dollar company that's worldwide. These are like simple steps that I feel are very transferable between traditional methods and non-traditional methods. Back in 1950, when you had filing cabinets, didn't you lock them? You wouldn't leave them unlocked if you had important information. It's the same idea. Passwords are just like your lock and key. You need to make sure that they're protected, especially with information that could be detrimental. When we're talking social media, though, changing back over to the fan base, we should really not be posting like a daily post in terms of, I'm gonna wake up this morning, what should I talk about? There should be plans. There should be like a method to the madness. The idea is like controlled chaos. So when you're posting, it should be very linear, but it should look very organic. I like to dig deeper when I'm talking about social media engagement, traditional and non-traditional. What I mean by that is I believe that everything digital comes down to an innate feeling, an emotion, and one of the five senses. And that combination of the two is what you're really trying to portray when you're engaging with fans. And if you're doing that properly and you're taking the proper steps to believe that what you're doing is going to engage the fan and not just be a statement, that's going to allow you to get those promoters, allow you to be able to then, when a mulligan is needed, when something negative happens. Southwest was able to have a tweet like that and get ahead of it because they do that regularly. That's not the first time they've done that. It's not the first time they've engaged with fans. The fact that they engage with fans on a daily basis allows them, in times of crisis, to activate those fans and be able to look like superstars. If Southwest didn't engage the other 364 days a year, that tweet would have gone unnoticed. It would have been kind of lost by the wayside. But the filler days, the days in between the real action, are just as crucial as the actionable days to be able to ensure that those fans are on your side and not going to be against you. So we talked about everything is forever, but more than everything is forever, with social media, it can be a positive just as much as it can be a negative. There are plenty of videos of outrageous things that people do to become famous. I saw this morning on my way here a video of a Fordham University student who went to China for 100 days and videoed himself to a song in 100 different locations, and the same song in all locations, and cut the video. It was published on Mashable. It has, I think, 20,000 retweets in the first hour of it being published. Leveraging social media to be a positive is just as important to understand as leveraging social media as a negative to defend yourself. Because if you don't leverage it positively, when it occurs that something negative happens, there's going to be nothing. You're going to be standing in the wayside. You're not going to have anything to leverage to show that you're someone important in your own world. For instance, if, let's say, just to go back with the baseball reference, CC Sabathia in his season of 20 wins, he had one loss. That loss was forgiven because of those 20 wins. But what if he had 10 wins in one loss? It wouldn't have been as great of an achievement. The more positives you can do to ensure that when a negative occurs, it's there to back up. So with social media, there's really the 3 C's that I like to talk about: communicating, capturing, and correcting. If you're communicating with your audience, then you're able to capture any negative impact, and then you're allowed to correct it. One of the brands I work with, Cotton Zoo, they're a clothing line out of Miami. They work with a bunch of big DJs, club DJs, so on, festival DJs. But what they have is they have an employee whose sole purpose is to be customer service across all social platforms. So if anyone asks, can you put a design on a t-shirt? My t-shirt came in the wrong size. My t-shirt came stained. Within 30 seconds of those going up on social media, he sees them and responds. It's just as important to be able to respond to those negatives as it is to post about the newest design. Because if you have the same person doing that, it's not going to be the response time that you need to really ensure that what you're doing is going to help the brand in its future. Thank you.